so thank you everybody for joining us today. So this is our How to Apply webinar for NECCA this year. Really excited. I can't believe we're already, it's already a year's passed and since last year's NECCA started, so comes around quickly. But yeah, this is just the main purpose of the webinar is just to introduce you to the majority of our core judging team, as a couple of people couldn't be with us today. And it's just to give everyone a bit of an insight into the application process, some of the new awards we've got on this year, and just a bit of our top tips from the judges on how to apply and how to make your nominations stand out. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Bryony, so I'm the Projects and Events Manager here at the Project Studios. We're the events management team that coordinate NECCA. So we've been involved with this for about 3 years. I think this is our 3rd year doing NECCA, but NECCA as a whole, this is the 18th year of NECCA, so it's quite long standing now. So yeah, we're really excited for another year bringing it back to you guys. Just in terms of a bit of agenda today, so I'm going to introduce you to each of the judges, and we're going to go through just sort of the ins and outs of preparing and submitting your nominations. So we've got Julie Mordew, we've got Nicola Simpson, Mark Brannan, Laura McCulloch, Dan Britton and Stuart Overend, and we've also got Chris Rainsworth on with us today. So we're going to go through each of the steps of how to apply and just sort of the ins and outs of that. And then we have got some time for Q&A. So if you've got any questions for the judges that haven't been answered during the session, feel free to pop them in the chat, or you can come on camera later on at the end and we can hopefully answer those questions for you. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So yeah, like I say, if you've got any questions, either use the chat box and one of the judges, hopefully we can pick that up during the session. Excuse me. If you can keep yourself on mute, just kind of while you're not speaking, just in case any background noise, obviously with working from home and this thing nowadays, I know we've got some, I think I heard a dog there in the background, so if people can just keep themselves on mute while they're not speaking. And if you could change your name on Zoom, just so we know who's attending, so change your name and to your organisation, just so we can see who we've got joining us today, that'd be great. So just a bit of a background really with NECCA this year. Obviously, so the categories, we announced them earlier this year, and we'll go through later on in the session some of the new categories we've got this year, which we're really excited to bring to you guys. We've got our toolkit, which has now been published as well, so you can find that on our NECCA website, and we'll share with you guys after the session as well for anyone that didn't have that. That's just got a little bit more of some top tips and just a bit of background on the awards and hopefully some helpful hints on applying this year. The nominations are now open, which is great. We have had a few nominations come through already, but we do tend to kind of get those to the back end of July. So I'm expecting a very busy last week in July again this year. Obviously today we've got our How to Apply support webinar, and then you've got until the 29th of July at 5 PM to send through your nominations. So plenty of time, but it does come through fast. So don't leave it to the last minute is what we always say to everyone. There's always a bit more there than you think to do. Then kind of between July and September, we're going to be having some sessions with the judges to go through all the applications and do some just do the judging of the first round. We'll then be announcing the shortlist on the 8th of September, and all people who are shortlisted will be contacted before that's announced publicly, just so everyone's aware. Between September and November, we will be holding another webinar like this, and that'll be for the shortlisted candidates, just to get them up to scratch with the final round of nominations, and the judging will commence between September to late October. And then of course the big nights will be on the 11th of November again this year. Luckily for those who attended last year, this year the 11th is a Friday, so hopefully we won't have too many sore heads going to work on the Friday for those of you that have the weekend off. Hopefully that's a welcome change this year. So yeah, we were lucky enough last year to finally get back together again for the awards. For those that did attend, I'm sure you can agree it was a great night. It was so wonderful to have everyone in the room together, and we're hoping to go even bigger and better this year. So like I said, it will be on the 11th of November. It will be at the same venue, however, it has recently gone through a massive renovation and has been restored to former glory. For those that remember, it is now the Fed, back to its former glory for those that remember those days. So yeah, really excited. And information about that will be coming soon to those who wish to join us at the event this year. So yeah, now it's time for me to hand over to Julie Mordew, who's head of marketing at Green Bean, and she's going to talk you through what's new this year. So Julie, over to you.
Thanks so much, Bryony. And first of all, can I just say I'm so excited that we're back here again, and we've got an amazing set of categories for you this year, including 5 new. So Bryony, can we have the next slide, please? Fantastic. So I feel like I'm you know, in the Houses of Parliament doing this now. So we've got 10 individual star awards, so that has increased. We've got 5 awesome team awards, and we've got 4 outstanding organisation awards. So all of the judges got together after the awards last year, and we did quite a big deep dive and review into what was successful, what worked, where there are any gaps, and hopefully this year's award programme really reflects what's going on in your organisations today. So next slide. Yeah, so there's a summary which you'll already have seen has been announced on the website of the different categories, but I'm just going to go through a little bit more detail about the new categories that we've implemented this year, and also adapted a couple of the others. So, have we got? Yeah, here we go. So the individual awards. We've now got the introduction of Resource Planning Star. So this was really important, we felt, because it's such an important function within the contact centre for the efficiency and for service level deliveries. And we felt it wasn't reflected in some of the categories, and it should be a category in its own right. So we've introduced that this year, and it might be somebody that works in real time or in resource planning, but it is an individual as opposed to a team. And what we're looking for in this category is somebody that liaises well with HR, operations, L&D, back office and recruitment, to just have that stakeholder engagement and maximise efficiency and customer experience throughout the contact centre. So we're super excited to have that category this year. The next new category that we have is the new people partner. So again, we felt that the people function is really, really important and critical, especially after the last couple of years that we've been through. And we felt it maybe got lost a little bit within all of the categories. So we've brought this out as its own. And we're looking for somebody that in a people-focused role, it could be HR, could be learning and development, talent acquisition, recruitment, onboarding, induction, health and wellbeing, ED&I. So it's a real people-centric category that we hope will be able to benchmark people across the people-centric categories, and it won't get lost in amongst some of the other operational roles. The next new role that we've got, we've actually replaced Apprentice of the Year with Newcomer of the Year. So this could also be an apprentice, but we felt there's a lot of people that maybe have joined an organisation since August 2020 that is gone above and beyond and is a real superstar within the contact centre. So it could be in any role, not just frontline. It could include those that are undertaking an apprenticeship, and not just entry-level apprenticeships, but it could be higher level apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships. We know there's a lot of people within your contact centres are doing degree apprenticeships in the likes of resource planning, so it could be one of those superstars that's quite new to the organisation and has made a real impact. It can't be somebody that has changed their role within the organisation, so just to clarify that one, it has to be a true newcomer to the operation. The next of the team awards, we've got the new people-centric team. So you'll notice people-centric is coming all the way through the theme this year, because we really feel that, you know, we've evolved and that it is all about the people, and we wanted to make sure that that's at the forefront of the awards this year. So the people-centric team could be, again, somebody within HR, L&D, resourcing, but also IT, change, reward and recognition, ED&I, and it focuses on people and has people at the heart of their objectives to make the people successful in delivering their SLAs. So we're super excited to have that category this year. We've also got new this year, the community team. So this award recognising people that have had a positive impact in the community, whether internally or external communities. So they'll help improve the environmental or social conditions within the societies that they interact with. They'll be able to demonstrate their impact on building relationships, social value. It's not just about raising money and how much money you're raising within the charitable sector, which obviously we know the contact centre do a huge amount of, but we also want to take that step further and recognise the teams that are actually going above and beyond and are making a real difference into their communities. And finally, the last change to the category, we've got the people-centric organisation. It's just been a bit of a rename and a revamp. So this is about an organisation, people-centric organisation, again, that have got people at the heart of the organisation, and they are at the forefront of the people agenda in terms of all of the categories of employee engagement, people development, equality, diversity and inclusion, which is absolutely huge, as well as health and well-being, and also introducing flexible working. So we're really looking for an organisation in that category that has embraced all of those 4 areas and is really shining a light in the contact centre. So we hope you're as excited as we are about the new categories, as well as the fabulous categories that we've always got that have stayed in place. But we're hoping that that is a bit more reflective of the contact centre today. So I'm going to hand over now to Stu, who's going to go through the categories in a little bit more detail and how to decide which categories to enter.
Thanks very much, Julie. Morning, everyone. Firstly, apologies. I need to get a new photo because that clearly is a slightly younger version of myself. So Brian, actually for me, I need to get that sorted. So yeah, selecting which categories to enter. Julie's already talked about the fact that we've got some additional categories this year. And you know, we spent a lot of time as a judging panel last year reflecting on how the judging went, how people applied. I thought it was really just important, really, just to share some insight and a little bit of feedback from ourselves. So quality, not quantity. So the main thing to think about is actually be mindful around the volume of nominations that you're putting in. So, you know, I sat down with many other judges last year, but for example, in some categories, I may have 10 nominations from one organisation. So when you're looking at sales and you've got your retention units, and you've got some, you know, different areas which fall under that banner, it can be quite difficult to sort of think about, you know, how do you sort of trim those down? But for us, really, this is about recognising excellence. This is about the people that you would, you know, put forward to either be in future roles or, you know, the best of the best. So for me, it's really important, you know, as an organisation, that you're confident the nominations you're putting through, but actually you sift through them and spend a bit of time just to make sure that you know, you're not sending through 10, but actually you're sending through 1 or 2. Or the volume you think that's appropriate, because ultimately we have to sit there, we'll spend a lot of time, we'll try and review and trim them down, do the right, you know, the right caliber to put through to the final piece. The criteria, so one of our colleagues will go through that in a moment, but actually understand what the criteria is and actually what you're looking to put forward. No different really to probably applying for a position or a role. You know, it's actually what's the requirements, what's the minimum requirements for this, and actually does the nomination that you're pulling forward, does it tick all the boxes, you know, and actually stand up for that. And if it doesn't, then it's probably an honest conversation to say it's not strong enough to put forward. So do you think about maybe, you know, next year or focus on potentially some other criteria or other nominations? And then the final thing really was the character count. So a personal review for me last year, I spent a lot of time going through the nominations, and actually when I was starting to go through some of the criteria and what people were putting together, I was blown away, absolutely blown away about these individuals, to the point where, you know, and my colleagues will back me up on this, when you sit down, you can almost start to paint a picture of this individual or this team, and actually somebody think, you know, this is somebody I would absolutely want in my organisation to sort of deliver customer excellence. And as you go through it, just there's nothing there. So you look at a word count of sort of 1,500 on a particular part of the nomination, and there's a few bullet points. You think, I felt a bit disappointed. It's like reading a book, getting through chapter 1 thinking this is going to be amazing, and then somebody's ripped out the rest of the pages. So for me, it's really important that time and effort and energy is put into, you know, making sure you're clear on the category that you want to put forward, but actually making sure that you're sort of, you know, making sure that the detail that required to go into that actually puts you in the best possible light. So that's a little bit from me. I'm going to pass you over to Lauren, who's going to go through the next part of the completing the forms. Lauren?
Yeah, thanks, Stu. So good morning, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Lauren McCulloch. So I think this is my 3rd year now entering into the judging process. So similar to Julie, really excited that this is all started again. I don't know where the year's gone, to be honest. So I'm going to take you through the actual form itself. Now, this is the bit where I think this is why we have a mad rush at the end of the month and we go, oh God, we want to enter, but we've got to write the form and we've got to fill it all in. And we appreciate that that's the really kind of time consuming part of this nomination. But for us, it's the first moment to shine. I think that's where we spend many hours, both individually and as a team, going through all of your applications and the sift that we have to get down from quite a lot that we get in down to the shortlist. It is a massive process. So this is our first look into what you've achieved. So I'll talk about it in a little bit more detail around the different sections of the form. So the very first part is really just telling us about you, your organisation and who you are. So that means that we're contacting the right people, as daft as it sounds. We've got the right email addresses and things like that, just so that we know that if we do need to get in touch and you've been shortlisted, we're getting through to the right people. So you'd be surprised how many times some of these sections are blank. So I think make sure that you focus and get that little bit right at the beginning. That's almost the housekeeping of the forms. When we get into actually what we've achieved, that's where we're really keen to see what are the tangible results. And again, really surprisingly, when you go through some of these forms, you read that first bit about the nominee and you get really into this person and this team and what they've done. But when we look at the results, there's very little there. And then on the flip side of that, those that really do well in these kind of categories and in these awards have a lot of tangible results. So it doesn't mean that you need to have hit all of your metrics for the year and you've improved everything by 3 million%. This just means that actually, what are you tracking? What's the benefit of what it is that you've achieved? And what does good look like? So if we give you a list on the form of things that you might think about, things that you might have tracked, if there's something on there that you've tracked and that you care about and that you think is what makes you stand out, add it on. This is not an extensive list though. We go, there's only these things you can talk about. It's just an idea to get those thoughts thinking about. Often we go, we've achieved all this amazing stuff. This is your time to go, and what did I tangibly deliver to the business? So for me, certainly when looking through these forms, that page right there on the KPI and criteria is super, super important. And then, so section 3, the how. Now, I've just spent probably 2 minutes telling you how important the KPIs are. This is equally really important, as is all of the forms. So I think when we talk about the how, to Stu's point, you've got 1,500 words to tell us that, or characters. So I think that's about, like, don't just give us the minimum amount of information. Don't equally give us loads of information that's not about the how. So actually, this is your real tangible stuff of what activities did I complete with my team, or what did we complete as a team to actually achieve those results that we've just talked about on page 1. So when we look at these applications, that how is really important, because if there isn't evidence that there was actually specific things that leverage those results, we're probably left with more questions than answers. So I would really recommend trying to focus on that section. Section 4 is where it really breaks down into specifics. So this is where we score separately for each of these categories. So some people will score higher on customer, for example, than they will colleague. They'll score really well on company, but they won't tell us anything about conduct. So if I was to give you any advice when we're looking at almost the C category of these forms, you try to give a really balanced view, because it's always there. I think even if it's a particular customer initiative that you've done, that's had an impact on people, it's had an impact on the company, it's probably you've demonstrated some really strong behaviors in terms of conduct or role modeling within the organization. And more times than not, there is some community activity in there that you've maybe just not thought about, or maybe thought it wasn't included in your nomination. So I think really have a think about making sure that you're selling yourself across all of those C categories and not just one, because we saw that a lot last year. Again, some of the best ones have a real balanced view across those categories. And then section 5 is almost your last closing statement, if you like. If you were on Dragon's Den, that'd be the moment we'd go, and why should we give you the money? So I think this is your opportunity to go. We might have looked at 20 applications that have all got amazing KPIs, amazing detail on the how. This is your bit to go, but why me? Why am I special? What do I bring to the table? And why should we pick you for this year's award? So don't be afraid to blow your own trumpet. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So absolutely do it within that category. some best advice that I've probably seen. Some people get testimonials in there. They get references from line managers, from colleagues, and say why they would win. It gives us a bit more of a rounded view, which really helps. And so I think, do you know what? This is where you really need to put your energy and your effort. And I think there's one tip: make sure it tells a story, because you've got a lot of information there, and the story is really important. I'm a broken record about telling a story and making sure it sounds right, but this is your time to do that. So hopefully that helps, and you can put all of your nominations into there. So I'm going to hand over to Nick now. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren, and good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all virtually, and looking forward to seeing you on the night of the celebration as well. So I've been involved with the nominations for a number of years now, so I'm going to go into a little bit more of detail around the criteria, which Lauren's touched on and Julie touched on in terms of the types of awards that we've got. So as Lauren mentioned, within each nomination, you'll see the criteria for all categories are broken down into the 4 key areas, or the 4 C's. So simply put, as it says on the screen, customer looks at the individual, the team, the organisation in relation to their customers. Company considers the individual, team and organisation's commercial performance and how their achievements have benefited the company or organisation as a whole. Colleague looks at the individual, team or organisation's attitude to colleagues. How does the individual or team behave towards their colleagues, and what's the organisation's corporate culture? And conduct asks about how the individual or team or organisation behaves and conducts themselves. So really considers how they've achieved what they did. Now, the only exception to having 4, and the categories who have 5 C's, are the Community Team Award and the Contact Centre of the Year Award. And this is all around community as well. So this also looks, and Lauren touched on this as well, the organisation's positive impact on its broader community and environment. So that's telling you what it is, and I hope it's reinforcing kind of what Julie, Stu and Lauren have already told you in terms of what's involved. So here's my advice, right? Here is the secret to a successful building of your form. There is no secret. It's actually on the form. So if you use the categories and the criteria guide, and you use that and you refer to that, you will see some great words, which are signposts, clues, whatever you want to call them. They are called out for every single nomination. So in this document, like I said before, we don't just give you clues. We are very transparent with what we're looking for. Pages 5 to pages 26 are full of detail. Pay attention within the words. So for example, if you were looking at customer service star voice, words like consistently delivers, outstanding customer service, meeting or exceeding, demonstrating, showing curiosity, empathy, quality, compliance, influencing, team membership or being a team player, active, passionate, well-being, role model, enthusiasm, energy and professionalism, they're all housed within the 4 C's within there. What we're interested in is when you do, and I think Lauren, you mentioned this about using your word count really carefully. We're looking for you to organise the detail within the nomination. Keep it simple and think to yourself, pause for a moment and think, what evidence do I have that I can share to demonstrate what the person has delivered? But equally how. The what and the how are really important to that full storytelling piece. What did we see them do? What did we hear them do? How did they make the colleagues feel? And how did they make the customers feel? And then think, how can I show this as a writer of the nomination in a way that truly represents the impact that they've had? And also remember, during this whole process, you've got the lovely Bryony there, right the way through that. So if there's any questions that you have about the criteria, and Bryony will reach out, to clarify with the judges and all that kind of thing. Any questions throughout the full process, please reach out and use that detail in the categories and criteria guides, because that's where you'll find Bryony's details as well. So just to reiterate, there is no secret. It's all there in the guide. My words are, just use your guide very wisely and stop and think how and what. It's in there. It's all yours for the taking. So thank you for listening, and over to Mark.
Thank you. So Brian, you didn't just filter my photo like she did Stu's. She's actually gone and got one of my school photos, which is lovely. I was taken in about 1953, I think, that one. In terms of the judging process, Dan and I just want to take a little bit of time to run through exactly what happens then. So we're into the nitty gritty, and you've submitted your forms. Well, the first thing I want to talk about is actually it's about the integrity of the judging process. So not just how will you be judged, but who would you be judged by? And a lot of work goes into ensuring that there's fairness, particularly because there is a lot of industry experience in the core judging team and in the support judging team. So what we do there is we make sure that there are absolutely no conflicts of interest, and a conflict of interest could occur if an organisation has submitted nominations for a particular category, and there is another judge supporting from that company. We would make sure that, for instance, if you are in a category, you won't be judged by someone with links to the other entrants in that category. That was quite long-winded, apologies for that. Similarly, we make sure that you wouldn't be judged by anyone who could be seen as a competitor of your organisation or a partner. And there's so much work goes in behind the scenes just to making sure that you've got absolute fairness there. And then we get onto the judging process itself. So having allocated a core judge, the core judge would be sent all of your nominations. And in an ideal world, if you've listened to the advice that you've got today, you filled your forms in, then you will score highly throughout the categories in a benchmarking exercise. Now, occasionally, it may go wrong, and I make no apology for repeating what Nick, what Lauren, what Stu have said. Filling both, we need a story, what's been achieved, how it's been achieved. And if you get that right, you will do well and move on to the second round. But before the second round happens, all of the core judges get together and do a second benchmarking exercise. So you benchmark within the categories, and then you benchmark across the whole of the across all of the categories to go, have we actually got the best of the best in the Northeast ready to progress to shortlisting? Are we able to move on, Bryony, please? So the shortlisted finalists are announced. You would get your call, and you would be expected to work with the judges to find a 40-minute interview slot for individual awards. And the shortlist, the second process is slightly different depending on the awards that you've entered into. For individual awards, it's a 40-minute interview. Now, I've yet to meet a judge who actually considers this an interview. I think most would prefer to see it as an introduction to yourself, and similarly an exploration of the form that you've submitted. So it's really who's the person behind the behind the words, and it's your opportunity to really sort of bring your nomination to life. Now, Nicola mentioned there that there may be gaps in your application. If there are significant gaps, it's unlikely that you're going to reach shortlisting. If there are some gaps, you may find that the judges spend their time trying to fill those gaps to give you absolutely the best chance that you've got to do well in your category. But if you've got if you've taken the advice already given, and you've got that, I think Nick called it, you've given us a balanced view, then that's much better for the judges, because it means we can use that time much more valuably, talking around what you've told us, rather than sort of trying to probe to draw the information out that we might have got at the first round. And as it says here, the inspirational leader is slightly different, and on the next slide, which we won't come on to yet, we've also got a different, slightly different process for team and category awards. Now, rather than me talk to you about that, we've got Dan on the call too, and Dan is from NHS BSA, who did very well last year, so it makes far more sense for Dan to talk about those categories than it does for me. So over to you, Dan.
Great, thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. Really nice to be here. This is I think I'm one of the newbies now, or if not the newbie to the senior judging panel. So Really great to be here and to see everybody. I have been a judge with NECCA the last 3 or 4 years, but this is my first time sort of entering into the senior judging world, so I suppose no pressure. But I have got a lot of experience with national judging panels as well. So hopefully what I say makes sense and is useful. So yeah, I think for me, one of the key standout points that Mark's just raised is around the word interview. It's absolutely not an interview. It doesn't feel like an interview anyway. Before this session, I asked my team for some feedback on how our judging process went last year. And the underlying themes that came through from the feedback was a very relaxed process with the judges, really informal. Although it is a formal process, it felt really informal, really relaxed, really sort of intrigued and asking questions, so generally interested in what you do as an organization. So it's not an interview. It shouldn't feel like an interview, and the judges really make it a really relaxing environment. But talking through the inspirational leader piece, it does feel, looking at it compared to the individual awards, there's obviously an extra bit to be aware of on top of what would be an ordinary individual award. And I'm sure it makes sense to everybody. Why? Because obviously inspirational leader in NECCA is quite it's an award that people will be aspiring to achieve, and it needs to have that extra bit to look for. I think for me, one of the bits of advice, I know Nick was saying earlier about no secrets. I think I might let 1 or 2 of my secrets out. I think with this one, be prepared, look in advance. I think somebody mentioned earlier, it might have been Lauren or Stu, don't wait until that sort of last week or 2 before the nominations need to be in. Think of, from this point onwards, start planning what you want to do with your categories or nominations up until they need to be in. Have a look at your staff survey results from recent months or recent year to see where the highlights were from the staff survey results, because that'll be telling you where some of the key, where some of the best teams are performing. And if they're performing really highly and the staff are really welcoming what's happening, their leader must be doing something really good in that area. So have a think about what your staff are telling you. And that's where you'll start to maybe pinpoint some of your inspirational leaders and what they're doing. And again, it goes back to, I think Nick mentioned this, and Julie as well, and others, the so what bit. I always say to my team, yeah, we're all contact centers, right? This is NECCA, so everyone has got a contact center. We'll all be doing the fundamentals. We'll all be doing performance management, quality management, customer service, people development. But put a so what after each of those with a question mark. What makes you stand out to the other 50 people who will be putting in, if not more? It's like Stu mentioned, think of it like you're going in for a job. You want to stand out above the candidates. You don't know who the other candidates are. So you want to make yours the best it can be and tell that story. Tell everything that you think of, oh, this is a really good bit that we did. So what? What made it really good? Tell the story of that bit. And be creative. The inspirational leader one does talk about having a creative license for a short period of the judging process. Be creative, think outside the box. I think what we did last year for our winner was it was talking a bit about sort of personal development and people engagement. And we were talking a little bit about sort of growing your own outside of work, you know, an allotment, how an allotment grows into something that's, you know, bears fruit and you get value out of it. That was the creative license. So again, letting some of the secrets away. I don't think we'll be using that again this year because we've already done it and we won it. But again, think outside the box with that, think creatively. It doesn't have to be work related, as long as it resonates with what you're trying to get across. Moving on to the team awards, again, similarly, slightly different to the individual awards. But again, my advice is still the same. You know, prepare in advance. Look at the teams that are doing well in your staff survey results. Because again, it's that feedback from your staff saying they're really happy, they're 5-star. So if they're 5-star and some of the other teams are 2, 3, 4-star, what's happening in that 5-star area? That's the spotlight, that's the highlight. Do a bit more work in that area, research what the staff are saying, do some testimonies, build that picture, tell that story. And then similarly with Contact Centre of the Year, we were lucky enough to win this last year. And again, it was because I think we were successful to tell our story. We thought we had a really good story. We were asking so what at every bit. Some of the examples that we were able to supply, we were lucky enough to supply some quite powerful examples with us working for the NHS. But again, I think we probably told the so what bits really well. We probably broke it down quite well to the point where we could say, here's a really good example for each of those bits. And here's why, here's why we might be able to stand out above some of the others. And again, creative license, it's a real opportunity for you to showcase what you do as an organization and as a business. Be creative. It doesn't always have to be work related. And sometimes the non-work related bits resonate more because it tells you it tells the story better than what you're trying to say. Just checking my notes to see if there was anything else I wanted to cover, because I have given some of my secrets away. I'm not going to give them all. I think that's it. I think I've covered. And Brian, I've fluffed my lines because I don't know who I'm passing on to. Sorry. Maybe the next slide will tell us.
Oh, sorry, I was just trying to get myself off mute. So yeah, so the last part we've got is it's just the top tips really. So Julie, if you're happy to kind of talk through sort of our top tips for telling the nomination. I know you're quite passionate about some of these, if that's all right.
Yeah, no problem. Basically, telling your story, like I think Dan mentioned, you might have 50 other people that are applying for the same nomination. They're all doing amazing things, otherwise they wouldn't have got through to the shortlisting stage. So, what is it about your story that's different? What would make me want to read to the end of the narrative? It needs to be really punchy and make the judges want to read more about your story. And I often, as well as the so what, it's the sort of the ask mum bit. So if somebody that is not in the industry reads it and can't understand it and was like, wow, well, what does that mean? Then it means that you've probably used too much jargon as well. So try and use the mum example, try and use the so what example whenever you're looking at your evidence, and just keep it punchy, not as jargon, because the jargon might just be relative to your industry or your contact centre. And don't be afraid to be personal. We are, all of the judges and all of the support judging panel, and there's about 20 support judges, will have signed an NDA. So that there is a little bit of, hesitance about sharing data, sharing some of your facts and figures. It doesn't go anywhere other than for the judging panel, and we're all under NDA as well, and that could be your differentiator. So just make sure that it is relative to your organisation. You can pack a punch, you can give as much information as you possibly can, and don't be afraid, like Dan says, get personal.
Fantastic, thanks so much, Julie. So what I'm going to do now is I'll stop sharing my screen for a second, just so that we can all see everybody. And so now is your chance. Hopefully we've covered some of the kind of key questions that you might have had. But now is really your chance. You can either pop your hand up and come on camera, come off mute if you want to speak, or if not, just pop it in the chat and we can answer. But yeah, now is your chance to really kind of ask any questions around anything we've covered today, really, or if you just have any questions on moving forward and kind of what to do next, really. So yeah, I'll open the floor up to you guys, and please let us know if you do have any questions that you kind of, now's your chance, really. So yeah, this is where it usually goes silent for a bit. And
I was going to say, Bryony, if while people are thinking of questions, just one thing that came to mind that was on the last slide. When you get to that stage where you're presenting as a team, one of the things I would strongly advise that you do is you rehearse. Like, I know that might sound a bit, sometimes it's difficult to get guys in the same room, but we've got virtual right now, so there's no excuse for not being able to rehearse in whatever format. And what I tend to see sometimes is the sense of relief once you've done your presentation and it's, the 20 minutes of questions are going to come next. What are they going to ask us? We're actually going to ask you things about what you've told us. So it's information that you've already shared with us that's either in your nomination or in your presentation. So there are some clues in there as to, we might want to know more on certain things, or something you've said will have triggered a question from us as well. So, try not to panic around that part. You've already got the information in hand, and, that's going to generate our questions. So just thought I'd share that. That was on my mind as we were going through the last session, so I thought I've got to let you know that, because it's awful, I think, when you're waiting for that 20 minutes.
Would it be okay if I just picked up on that as well? Because I think it links to this. When, almost without exception, when people get to shortlisting, they're nervous. And I always find it quite strange that they're nervous to meet quite a friendly bunch of people, and certainly a bunch of people who are really interested in them and what they've done. And dare I say, it's quite sweet, and it's completely unnecessary. We are all friends here. We're all contact centre professionals. And it's one of the reasons why we don't like, thinking of this as an interview. People associate an interview with jobs where the power is in the interviewer. This is completely different. It is an absolute privilege to meet shortlisted candidates, individuals, teams, organisations at the top of the game. And this is your time, and it's actually the judges that are humbled to meet you. It should not be the other way around. And for that reason, I would say, be proud, enjoy yourself, and really take the time to celebrate the process as well as the event in November.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Mark. I've not seen anything come up in the chat. Anyone have any kind of questions? If not, everyone can get some time back today. But I'll just give it last chance for anybody that might want to know anything else that we've not covered. Hopefully, if there's no questions, it means judges, you've done a fantastic job, and you've answered everybody's questions. And
I can't believe that we are sat here with no questions. So this is your opportunity, guys. This is anything that we've not covered or anything you want to ask. One thing we haven't mentioned previously is that there are occasions where we will look at a nomination and feel that probably doesn't sit in the right category, to give that the best opportunity to sort of, go forward. Hopefully from the session we've done today, that won't happen this year, but if it does, we do apply multiple lenses across each of those categories. So we think there is something particularly special about it, but it doesn't hit the mark. We may come back and say, look, what about this particular category there as well? So I just thought we'll pick up on that one, but surely people have questions.
I think I'd like to mention as well about the fantastic opportunity it is, not just about benchmarking your organisation, but in terms of best practice, look at the development of the judging panel. So we have about 20 support judges who will have entered awards and may have been through the shortlisting, and we're using that as a learning curve for us to bring best practice from all of the organisations that they belong to. And it's a natural progression that once somebody is maybe won an award, that they become part of the support judging panel, and then eventually, like Dan mentioned, was invited to join the core judging panel, as Mark was a previous winner too. So it's a really good opportunity, for us to meet you so that we can introduce best practice into the judging and to NECCA, but also a personal development for the judges and the support judges, that there is that progression going forward as well. And it gives you a good opportunity to bring best practice from judging back into your organisation as well.
okay, great. Oh,
hi, I just had a quick question, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I'll break the trend and speak up. So it was just I wondered if it was possible to get a view of not the full nominations, but some details, maybe of some previous winners, to give us an idea of the kind of stuff that we'd be looking for. I think today was really informative and it was really helpful. And I also think all the communication that we've had up to this point has been fantastic as well. But I just think that would help us when kind of looking to start building our nominations.
Yeah, no problem. I think, Julie, I guess in terms of, so one of our sponsors, our headline sponsor this year is Green Bean, and NECCA has been doing a piece with Green Bean around their Talking Talents initiative. So what they've done, which has been wonderful, is they've actually done some interviews with previous winners from last year, and you can find all of those we've been posting them on our LinkedIn and our socials, and you can also find them on Green Bean's socials. And we've got a number of different winners from last year, from about 7 or 8 of the awards last year that they've done interviews with, and they've kind of broken down, I guess, part of their journey, so how they got there, kind of what they did, how they found the process, but also they've kind of shared, I guess, how they went about applying and things like that. So I think that would definitely be a really great place to start, having a look at those videos and seeing some of the previous winners. Judges, I don't know if you've kind of got any other suggestions, but that would definitely be my place to start.
Brian, you can find all of those, or for everybody, you can find them on Green Beans YouTube channel. So I'll share the link with Brian so you can communicate that out. But I think that we are planning on putting them on the resources section of the website too. Am I right in thinking that, Brian?
Yes, yeah, we are, yeah.
Great.
Perfect, thank you. And then just one other question, if that's okay. I can see a couple popping up in the chat, but I'm going to talk out loud. In terms of kind of arranging for attendance at the event, when does the detail of that become shared?
In terms of being able to
like booking a table or whatever.
Yeah, so once we've announced the shortlist as people, so start of September, we'll also be putting out comms to everybody who's applied, everybody who's shortlisted, and we'll be getting it all on our social. So start of September will be kind of chances to book tables for the event and things like that. But we'll be giving people plenty of notice ahead of time so that they know kind of when that date's going to come around.
Perfect, thank you.
No problem. Susan asks, so just kind of judges, do you guys have a personal sort of favourite category that you look forward to each year? I know you kind of all had experience on judging a few different ones, but does anyone have any sort of favourite categories to look forward to?
Ooh.
I think it differs, doesn't it? Yeah, I think you can't say, I mean, asking us if we've got a favourite, I feel like we've been stitched up there. I feel like you can't ask that question, but if I'm talking personally from me, I work in and predominantly have worked in support functions. So that's kind of my background. It's what I do. It's kind of the thing that I'm probably the most passionate about. So I know certainly last year they were some of my favourites to see what the support functions had achieved, but equally that doesn't detract from me enjoying all the other categories. So I think probably an unfair question, but know why you've asked it.
I think I'll go back to what Mark was saying earlier. You know, it absolutely is a privilege to be able to sort of judge these categories. And I'm nosy, so you know, I like to know what's going on in different worlds. And when you're engaging with so many brilliant people and brilliant organisations, you know, we take away learnings from this ourselves. You know, we take away things to say, well, actually, we question. You know, I do personally question some of the things that I do, or there's the ways we could do things differently. So, you know, it's a win-win across the piece on this. So I don't think there's any categories that certainly I would prefer, because we do tend to swap these around. But yeah, we get a lot of insight from this, and it's really valuable for us.
Great. Mel, just to answer your question. So in terms of the submission process, yeah, in the subject line, if you put kind of the name of who you're sending through, so yes, it would be 1 email per nomination. Slightly selfish on my part, because otherwise it gets slightly confusing, but it just means that we can make sure that we action every single nomination, nothing's missed, and we've kind of got everything we need. So yeah, just 1 email per nomination. You are able to send as many nominations through as you want, so that's absolutely fine, and you will get confirmation of receipt, and I will be emailing everybody back once those are all actioned. So you'll hear back from me as soon as I've got that email. Claire, so with home working still being around, can we nominate individuals that are home working in the North East? The answer is yes, as long as they're part of your North East operations, that's absolutely fine. I think the majority of people that we had last year were still working from home. So yeah, that's absolutely fine, not a problem, as long as they're part of your North East operations.
I think just on that, on the home working, it's really important on a nomination, if it is a home worker, to show how they're still integrated and engaged with your operation, and that they're not siloed and they are still very integrated. So whether they're part home working or full-time home working, it's important that we see the consistency between home and the contact centre, that there's, you know, that they are involved in everything that you do.
Perfect, thanks, Julie. Okay, great. I think that's everything. Started off a trend there, Brian, so thank you for being the first person to put forward a question. I guess just in terms of next steps as well from our part, so yeah, like I say, applications are obviously still open. You've got until the 29th of July, 5 p.m. I'll be sitting manning my laptop right up until that point. Obviously, you know, if something comes in slightly after 5 p.m, don't worry, we're not super, we won't be saying, no, you've missed the cut-off by a minute, but please do try and get your applications in. The earlier the better. Obviously, leave yourself plenty of time, don't rush it, but those couple of days are quite hectic. So the earlier you get them in, the quicker you'll get a response, but everything will be actioned, so don't worry about that. You can find our toolkits and our categories and criteria documents on our website. If anyone needs signposting to those, please give me a shout and I'm happy to email those across. We will be posting a recording of this webinar on our socials and on our NECCA website, so feel free to share with anyone that wasn't able to be here today, and you can watch back for reference. But if anybody does have any other questions, like the judges say, please feel free to contact myself. You should all have my emails, or if not, they're on the NECCA website. So any questions you've got, don't go this alone, please do reach out. And if I can't answer it, I will of course be referring to our experienced judging panel to make sure that you've got the best advice needed. So yeah, just get applying, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. If that's everyone's question, we'll give you some time back, but I hope you found this useful, and please do keep in touch, and we'll be in touch over the coming weeks with any kind of further comms you've got regarding NECCA. So yeah, really excited, but thanks so much guys for being here today, and thank you so much to all our judges as well, for giving up their time to be here today. It was really great.